The message came without warning. Every screen on Earth lit up at the same moment. Phones buzzed in pockets. Computers blinked to life in darkened offices. Television sets turned on by themselves in living rooms across the world. The message appeared in every language humanity had ever spoken. The words were clear, and the meaning was impossible to misunderstand. An alien race called the Collective had found Earth. They had studied humanity from a distance. They had made their judgment. Humans were dangerous. Humans were primitive. Humans were not fit to govern themselves. The Collective offered guidance. They offered control. They offered what they called protection. In return, they wanted everything. Complete surrender. Total submission. Earth would become another world in their empire. Humanity would become another species under their rule. They gave Earth 72 hours to accept these terms. After that time ran out, resistance would mean death. The message ended with a simple statement. This was not a negotiation. This was not a request. This was the natural order of things. Advanced civilizations guided lesser ones. The strong protected the weak. The Collective had done this 47 times before. 47 species had accepted their place. 47 worlds had joined the Empire. Earth would be number 48. Commander Jake Sullivan stood on the bridge of Guardian 7. The orbital defense platform hung in space above Earth like a watchful eye. He had served in the military for 20 years. He had seen conflicts. He had trained for war. But nothing had prepared him for this. Lieutenant Amy Foster stood beside him, staring at the holographic display. The alien ship floated beyond Mars. It was massive, bigger than anything humans had ever built. Its surface moved with colors that seemed wrong somehow, patterns that made her eyes hurt when she looked too long. The ship had appeared 3 hours ago. It had simply materialized in space as if it had always been there. No one had detected it coming. No sensors had warned of its arrival. It was just suddenly there, hanging in the void like a threat made solid. They cannot be serious, Foster said quietly. Do they really think we will just give them our world? Sullivan kept his eyes on the display. According to the analysis team, they call themselves the Collective. They have been doing this for thousands of years. They find species they consider primitive. They offer protection. They demand submission. Apparently, every species they have encountered has accepted. Foster turned to look at him. Every species. Sullivan nodded. All 47 of them. We would be the first to refuse. Foster was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. It was not a happy smile. Good, she said. Let us be the first. Sullivan felt something settle in his chest. A calm determination. They had trained for this possibility, not this exactly. No one had really believed first contact would be hostile. But the military had planned for every scenario, including this one. Including invasion. Including war. The protocols existed. The weapons were ready. The question was whether humanity had the will to use them. Down on Earth, the United Nations convened an emergency session. Every nation sent representatives. Every leader watched the proceedings. For the first time in human history, there were no arguments about borders. No debates about resources. No conflicts over ideology. The threat was too big, too immediate, too absolute. President Linda Carter of the United States stood before the assembly. She had been in office for 2 years. She had dealt with economic crises and natural disasters. She had negotiated peace treaties and trade agreements. None of that mattered now. The only thing that mattered was the decision they had to make in the next 72 hours. We have 3 days, Carter said. Her voice was steady despite the situation. 3 days to decide whether humanity remains free or becomes subjects of an alien empire. 3 days to choose between submission and war. She paused, letting the weight of those words sink into every person in that room. I will tell you right now what my choice is. I choose freedom. I choose Earth. I choose humanity. The assembly erupted in agreement. Voices rose in every language. But the message was the same. No surrender. No submission. Earth belonged to humans. If the Collective wanted it, they would have to take it by force. The response was drafted within 6 hours. Every nation approved it. Every leader signed it. It was transmitted on every frequency humanity could generate, broadcast toward the alien ship with every comm system on Earth and in orbit. The message was short. The message was clear. The message was unmistakably human. To the Collective. We have received your generous offer. We respectfully decline. Earth belongs to humanity. It has always belonged to humanity. It will always belong to humanity. If you want our world, come and take it." The transmission ended. There was no elaboration, no explanation, no justification, just a simple statement of fact and a challenge. Come and take it. On Guardian 7, the crew watched the message being sent. Sullivan felt a strange mixture of pride and dread. Pride because humanity had chosen to stand. Dread because he knew what would come next. Foster checked her console. "How long do you think before they respond?" she asked. Sullivan considered the question. "Not long," he said. "They gave us 3 days because they expected us to use that time deciding. They expected debates, arguments, maybe even conflicts between nations. They did not expect a unified response in 6 hours." Foster nodded. "So they will attack." "Yes," Sullivan agreed. "They will attack. And when they do, we need to be ready." He activated the station-wide comm. "All personnel, this is Commander Sullivan. Battle stations. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Prepare for hostile contact." Throughout the station, alarms began to sound. Crews rushed to their posts. Weapons systems powered up. Shields activated. Every person on Guardian 7 knew what was coming. Every person was afraid, but every person was also determined. They would not surrender. They would not run. They would stand and fight, because that is what humans did when pushed to the edge. They fought back. Across Earth, similar preparations began. Military bases went to full alert. Missile silos opened their doors. Naval fleets put to sea. Air forces scrambled fighters. Ground forces mobilized. The entire planet became an armed camp in a matter of hours, not because anyone thought they could win. The alien ship was far more advanced than anything humanity possessed. Its technology was beyond current human understanding. Its weapons could probably destroy cities from orbit. Its defenses might be impenetrable, but none of that mattered. What mattered was the principle. What mattered was freedom. What mattered was refusing to kneel before anyone or anything. Humanity had fought itself for thousands of years. Nation against nation. Ideology against ideology. Religion against religion. But when faced with an outside threat, all those divisions vanished. In their place stood a single unified species, ready to defend their world, ready to fight for their freedom, ready to die if necessary, but determined to make any victory over them cost more than the collective had ever paid before. The alien ship received the human response. There was a long silence. The collective had given humanity 3 days expecting negotiation, expecting fear, expecting submission. Instead, they received defiance. Instead, they received a challenge. Instead, they received something they had not encountered in a very long time: resistance. The ship began to move, slowly at first, then faster. It turned toward Earth. Its course was clear. Its intention was obvious. The collective had come to subjugate another primitive species. They had done it 47 times before. This would be number 48. Except this time something was different. This time the primitive species had said no. This time the lesser race had chosen to fight. The collective was about to learn a very important lesson about humanity. A lesson that would change everything. Humans were not like other species. Humans had been fighting each other since the dawn of their civilization. Humans had refined warfare into an art form. Humans had created weapons capable of destroying their entire world. And now all that knowledge, all that experience, all those terrible weapons were about to be turned on an outside enemy for the first time. The collective thought they were dealing with primitives. They were about to discover just how dangerous primitives could be when they refused to surrender. High Commander Zerthus observed the human response from his command chamber. The ship around him hummed with power that could level continents. He had served the collective for 300 cycles. He had conquered 17 worlds. He had subjugated species that begged for mercy. He had destroyed civilizations that dared to resist. The humans were no different from any of the others. They were primitive. They possessed basic space travel using chemical rockets and simple fusion drives. Their weapons were kinetic projectiles and explosive devices. Their defenses were non-existent by collective standards. They had no energy shields, no dimensional weapons, no understanding of the technology that separated advanced species from lesser ones. This would be a simple demonstration, a quick lesson. The humans would see the futility of resistance. Then they would accept the inevitable. Subjugation or extinction. Those were the only choices. Every species learned this eventually. The humans would be no exception. Operative Yanara stood at her station analyzing the human response. "It is curious," she said. "They responded within hours. Most species take the full time allotted. They debate among themselves. They try to find compromise." Zerthus studied the data flowing across his displays. "These humans are emotional, irrational. They do not understand what they face. Their unified response is born from ignorance, not strength. Once they see our capabilities, they will reconsider." Yanara was not convinced, but she said nothing. The collective did not tolerate doubt. The collective did not accept failure. High commanders made decisions. Operatives followed orders. That was the way of things. That was the order that had built an empire across galaxies. She activated the weapon systems. The ship began its approach toward Earth. Defensive drones deployed in perfect formation. Energy shields flickered to life around the hull. Weapons arrays charged with enough power to crack a planet. The collective had come to claim another world. The humans would learn their place. On Guardian 7, Commander Sullivan watched the alien vessel approach. His tactical display showed the ship moving at a steady pace. Not rushing, not hesitating, just advancing with absolute confidence. Foster checked her console and looked up. "They are entering weapons range in 30 minutes. Should we fire warning shots?" Sullivan shook his head. "No warnings. They know we are here. They know we are armed. If we fire warning shots, it shows uncertainty. It shows we hope to avoid conflict. But we cannot avoid this. They came here to conquer. We are here to defend. There will be no misunderstandings, no confusion, just action." He activated the command channel linking Guardian 7 to every defense platform in orbit. "All stations, this is Sullivan. The enemy is approaching. We have one chance to make this work. One chance to show them we are not prey. Execute protocol bear trap on my mark, stand by. Across-orbit weapon systems powered up. Railguns locked targeting solutions. Missile tubes loaded warheads. Energy weapons charged capacitors." Humanity had prepared for this day, not because they wanted war, but because they understood that peace required the ability to defend it. The thing about humanity that the collective did not understand was the nature of human warfare. Humans had been fighting each other for their entire existence. Every weapon humanity possessed had been designed to kill other humans. Every tactic had been refined through centuries of conflict. Every strategy had been tested in countless battles. Humanity had fought with sticks and stones, with swords and spears, with guns and bombs, with tanks and aircraft, with nuclear weapons capable of ending civilization. All of that knowledge, all of that experience, all of those terrible lessons learned through blood and sacrifice. The collective was about to face all of it. They thought they understood human capabilities because they had observed commercial traffic and civilian broadcasts. They had watched military exercises and public demonstrations. What they had not seen were the weapons humanity kept hidden. The systems designed for a scenario exactly like this. The contingency plans for the day when Earth faced a threat from space. That day had arrived. Those weapons were about to be unleashed. Foster counted down the final seconds. 20 seconds to optimal firing position. 15, 10, 5. Sullivan took a deep breath. "On my mark. 3, 2, 1. Fire everything." Space erupted with violence. Thousands of projectiles launched simultaneously from every platform in orbit. Railgun rounds accelerated to massive speeds. Missiles with sophisticated targeting systems. Energy beams from experimental weapons. Nuclear warheads on ballistic trajectories. All of it converged on the collective ship from multiple angles. All of it calculated to overwhelm defenses through sheer volume. The first wave hit the alien shields. Energy flared as the defensive screens absorbed impacts. But shields required power. Power had limits. The second wave came before the shields could recover. More impacts. More stress on the defensive systems. The third wave found weaknesses. Gaps in the coverage. Sections where the shields had collapsed under sustained fire. Projectiles punched through. Missiles detonated against hull plating. Energy beams burned into alien metal. Aboard the collective vessel, alarms screamed. Zerthus stared at his displays in disbelief. Section 17, reporting breach. Section 22, shields offline. Starboard weapons array destroyed. Port propulsion damaged. The reports came faster than he could process. This was not possible. The humans did not have this capacity. The evaluation had been clear. Primitive technology. Limited weapons. No threat to collective superiority. But the evaluation had been wrong. Catastrophically wrong. The humans had hidden their true capabilities. They had let the collective see what they wanted them to see, and now they were paying the price for that deception. Yanara worked frantically at her station, rerouting power to forward shields, activating emergency repairs. But the damage was extensive, too extensive. "We need to return fire," she said. "If we do not respond, they will destroy us." Xerthus hesitated only a moment. "All weapons fire at will. Target their orbital platforms. Show them the cost of resistance." The collective ship began to fire back. Energy beams lanced through space, far more powerful than anything humans possessed. They struck Guardian 3 and the platform simply ceased to exist. Vaporized in an instant, Guardian 9 took a glancing hit and broke apart. Debris spread in a cloud of metal and bodies. Guardian 12 survived one shot but not the second. Sullivan watched platforms die on his tactical display. Each one represented hundreds of personnel. Each loss was felt across the network. But they could not stop. Could not hesitate. This was war. This was survival. "Keep firing," he ordered. "Do not let up. Make every shot count." Foster relayed the commands even as Guardian 7 shook from a near miss. The temperature on the bridge spiked as energy bled through their limited shielding. Alarms sounded. Damage reports flooded in. But the crew kept working. Kept fighting. Because that is what humans did. They stood their ground. They refused to break. They pushed forward even when everything screamed at them to run. Down on Earth, General Peter Collins coordinated the ground response from deep inside Cheyenne Mountain. The command center buzzed with activity. Screens showed the battle raging in orbit. Each platform that died took a piece of Earth's defense with it. But the collective ship was suffering too. Its hull showed dozens of breaches. Its shields flickered and failed. Its weapons fire became erratic as power systems struggled to compensate for damage. Collins watched the tactical analysis. The alien vessel was more advanced, more powerful, better armed, but it was alone, and humanity had prepared for this with the paranoia born from centuries of warfare. Siren 8 approached. "The nuclear strike package is ready. Authorization code required." Collins looked at the screen showing Guardian 7 barely holding together, showing the collective ship still firing despite its wounds. This was the moment. The decision that would define humanity's future. He entered his authorization code. "Launch," he said. "Launch everything we have." Nuclear warheads rose from silos across 5 continents. Not the primitive weapons the collective expected. These were advanced thermonuclear devices, enhanced with cobalt for maximum radiation. Shaped charges that focused nuclear fury into directed streams of destruction. Weapons that humanity had refined over decades of Cold War paranoia. Weapons designed to destroy other human nations. Now all of that terrible knowledge was aimed at a single target. The warheads climbed out of Earth's atmosphere. Their engines burned. Their guidance systems calculated trajectories. Their payload armed and ready. Xerthus saw them coming. Saw the dozens of heat signatures rising from the planet's surface. He had seconds to understand. Seconds to realize the magnitude of his error. The humans were not just primitive. They were armed with weapons capable of destroying worlds, and they were willing to use them. The nuclear strikes hit all at once. The shields collapsed completely. Explosions rippled across the hull. Entire sections broke away. The collective ship that had seemed invincible now tumbled through space dying. And humanity had delivered the killing blow. The nuclear warhead struck the collective ship in a carefully coordinated sequence. Each explosion added to the destruction. Each detonation pushed the vessel closer to complete failure. The hull cracked. Interior compartments vented to space. Power systems overloaded. The ship that had arrived with such confidence now broke apart in slow motion. Debris spread in an expanding cloud. Some pieces burned as atmosphere escaped. Others tumbled cold and dark through the void. The battle had lasted 3 hours. 3 hours of continuous violence. 3 hours of humanity throwing everything they had at a superior opponent. And in the end, it had been enough. Just barely enough. The collective ship was destroyed. But the cost had been terrible. 17 orbital platforms were gone. 3 more were so damaged they would never operate again. Over 8,000 personnel dead. Thousands more wounded. Ships destroyed. Weapons exhausted. Resources depleted. Victory had come at a price that would take years to recover from. But it was victory nonetheless. Commander Sullivan floated in what remained of Guardian 7's bridge. The station had lost atmosphere in the final minutes of the battle. Emergency bulkheads had sealed most sections, but the command center was exposed to vacuum. His suit kept him alive, but he could see the damage. Consoles torn apart. Walls breached. Equipment floating in zero gravity. Bodies of crew members who had not reached their suits in time. Lieutenant Foster's voice crackled through his helmet comm. "Sir, the rescue ships are here. They are evacuating wounded from the lower decks. We should have everyone off within 2 hours." Sullivan looked out at Earth through the broken wall of the bridge. The planet hung there beautiful and blue, alive, free. "That is good," he said quietly. "Get everyone out. No one stays behind." He pushed off from his console and drifted toward the emergency exit. Around him, the wreckage of Guardian 7 bore silent testimony to the battle. They had held. They had fought. They had won. But the victory felt hollow when surrounded by so much destruction. Down on Earth, the reaction was complex. There was relief that the immediate threat was over, pride that humanity had defended itself, grief for those who had died, fear of what might come next. President Linda Carter addressed the world from the White House. Her speech was broadcast globally, translated into every language, heard by every person on the planet. "Today we faced an enemy from beyond our world," she said. "They came with demands. They came with threats. They came with weapons we could barely comprehend. And we stood against them. We refused to surrender. We chose to fight. The cost was high. 8,000 brave men and women gave their lives defending Earth. Countless others were wounded. Our orbital defense network is severely damaged. But we are still here. We are still free. The alien threat has been eliminated." She paused, letting that sink in. "But this is not over. The collective is vast. They have conquered dozens of species. They will not accept this defeat easily. They will return. We must be ready. We must prepare. We must become stronger. Starting today, we dedicate ourselves to that goal. We will rebuild. We will advance. We will make sure that when they come back, we are ready." In the Cheyenne Mountain Command Center, General Collins assembled a team of experts. Scientists and engineers pored over data from the battle, every sensor reading, every weapon's impact, every shield fluctuation. They were building a complete picture of collective technology. Dr. Helen Morris led the science team. She had been studying the recovered debris for 12 hours straight. Her findings were remarkable. "General, we have recovered functioning technology from the wreckage," she reported. "Energy shield generators, power systems, communication equipment. If we can reverse engineer even a fraction of this, it will advance our capabilities by decades, maybe centuries." Collins leaned forward. "How long? How long to understand it? To replicate it?" Morris shook her head. "Years, maybe a decade. This technology is far beyond our current level. But we have something the collective did not expect. We have the physical components. We have intact systems. We can take them apart, study them, learn from them." Collins nodded slowly. "Then we start now. Make it a priority. Get the best people. Give them whatever resources they need. We bought ourselves time with this victory. We need to use that time wisely." Across the solar system, recovery operations continued. Rescue ships searched through debris fields looking for survivors in damaged sections. Salvage teams collected pieces of the collective vessel. Medical facilities on Earth and Luna worked around the clock treating the wounded. Construction crews began planning repairs to damaged platforms. The work would take months, maybe years, but humanity had survived. That was what mattered. Commander Sullivan was evacuated to a medical station on Luna. He had a broken arm and several fractured ribs, minor injuries compared to many others. He spent his recovery time reading reports and watching analysis of the battle, studying what worked, what failed, what could be improved. Lieutenant Foster visited him on the third day. She had been promoted to commander for her actions during the battle. "How are you feeling?" she asked. Sullivan looked up from his tablet. "Like I got hit by a spaceship, which I suppose I did in a way." Foster smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. "We lost a lot of people, Jake, good people." "I know," Sullivan said quietly. "I know, and they will be remembered, honored. But we cannot let grief paralyze us. The collective will return. We need to be ready. We need to make sure their sacrifice meant something." Foster nodded. "What do we do now?" "We learn," Sullivan said. "We prepare, we build, and next time they show up, we make sure the fight is even more one-sided, in our favor." The wreckage of the collective ship yielded treasures beyond imagination. Intact computers with data about collective operations, star charts showing their territory, information about other species they had conquered. Technology that made human systems look like primitive toys. Scientists worked in specially constructed facilities examining every piece. Engineers drafted plans for new weapons based on alien designs. Military strategists studied collective tactics and developed countermeasures. Linguists decoded their language. Xenologists analyzed their biology and culture. Every piece of information was cataloged, studied, applied. Humanity had been given a gift. The collective had underestimated them, had attacked without proper reconnaissance, had paid the price for arrogance. But in dying, they had given humanity the tools to become something more, something stronger, something capable of standing against future threats. 6 months after the battle, Earth held a memorial service. Representatives from every nation attended. Military personnel, civilians, families of the fallen. The ceremony was held at the site where the first piece of collective debris had fallen to Earth. A massive fragment of hull plating that had survived re-entry. It had been converted into a monument. Names of the dead carved into its surface. 8,243 names. Each one a person. Each one a life. Each one a sacrifice made so that billions could remain free. President Carter spoke at the ceremony. "We stand here today not to celebrate war," she said, "but to remember those who gave everything. They did not seek this fight. It was forced upon them, and they rose to meet it with courage that will echo through history. We cannot bring them back. We cannot undo their loss. But we can honor their memory by making sure their sacrifice was not in vain. We can make sure Earth remains free. We can make sure humanity stands strong against any threat. That is our obligation. That is our promise to the fallen. That is our commitment to the future." As the ceremony concluded, people placed flowers at the base of the monument. Thousands of flowers in every color, a garden of remembrance growing from the wreckage of war. Sullivan stood among the mourners. He had lost friends in the battle. People he had served with for years. People who had trusted him to lead them. Some of those names were on this monument. Foster stood beside him. "Do you think it was worth it?" she asked quietly. Sullivan was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Yes, because the alternative was slavery. The alternative was submission. Those people died free. They died defending their world. Their choice. Their future. That has value. That means something." Foster looked at the monument. "The collective will come back." "I know," Sullivan said. "But when they do, we will be ready. And every person who died here will have contributed to that readiness. Their sacrifice bought us time, gave us technology, united humanity in a way nothing else could have. So yes, it was worth it. It had to be worth it. Because if it was not, then their deaths were meaningless. And I refuse to accept that." Foster nodded. "Then we make sure we are ready, whatever it takes, whatever the cost. We make sure Earth stands always." 10 years passed. Earth transformed in ways that would have seemed impossible before first contact. The battle that nearly destroyed humanity became the catalyst for unprecedented growth. Scientists who studied collective technology made breakthrough after breakthrough. Energy shields that could protect entire cities. Faster than light communication that connected Earth with distant probes. Power generation systems that made fusion reactors look primitive. Weapons that combined human ingenuity with alien physics. The solar system filled with human activity. Mining operations extracted resources from asteroids. Research stations orbited every major planet. Shipyards in Earth orbit and around Luna constructed vessels that would have amazed the pre-contact military. These were not simple defense platforms anymore. These were warships, true warships designed from the beginning to fight and win against advanced alien technology. Commander Sullivan had been promoted to admiral. He now oversaw the entire Earth Defense Force. His hair had turned gray. His face bore new scars. But his eyes still held the same determination they had shown during that first battle. He stood on the bridge of the newest vessel in the fleet, the Commonwealth, 3 kilometers long, armed with railguns that could punch through planetary shields, missile systems with dimensional warheads, energy weapons that rivaled collective technology, and a crew of 3,000 trained and ready. Captain Jennifer Cole served as his second in command. She had been a junior officer during first contact, had survived when her platform was destroyed, had spent the last decade training for the moment when the collective returned. Because everyone knew they would return, It was not a question of if, but when. That question was about to be answered. Long-range sensors detected the anomaly first. Multiple contacts dropping out of faster-than-light transit at the edge of the solar system. Cole checked her displays and felt her heart sink. "Admiral," she said quietly. "We have contacts." "Multiple contacts." Sullivan moved to her station. "How many?" Cole ran the analysis again, hoping she had miscounted. 27 capital ships, Admiral. All collective design. They are broadcasting the same ultimatum as before. Sullivan studied the tactical display. 27 ships. 10 years ago, one ship had nearly destroyed them. Now the collective had returned with overwhelming force. They had learned from their mistake. They would not underestimate humanity again. "Status of the fleet," he asked. "All defense platforms are operational," Cole reported. 42 warships ready for deployment. Ground installations at full readiness. The Mars defense network is online. We have tripled our capabilities since the first battle. But they have brought 27 times the force. Sullivan nodded slowly. "Then we will have to be 3 times as effective per ship. Send them our response. The same response we gave last time." The message was transmitted across all frequencies. To the collective. "Your terms remain unacceptable. Earth belongs to humanity. If you want it, come and take it." The response was the same. But Earth was not the same. Humanity was not the same. They had spent 10 years preparing for this moment. 10 years studying, building, training, planning. The collective had numbers. But humanity had experience now. Had technology that closed the gap. Had the home field advantage. And most importantly, had the absolute refusal to ever surrender. The alien fleet began its approach. Slower than before. More cautious. They had learned that humans were dangerous. That humans did not follow expected patterns. That humans fought with a ferocity that defied their technological level. Good, Sullivan thought. Let them be cautious. Let them worry. Let them wonder what surprises we have prepared this time. Because we have prepared plenty. President Carter watched from the command center deep beneath the surface. She had been re-elected twice on a platform of defense and preparation. Every citizen knew about the threat. Every nation contributed to the defense. There were no more divisions. No more conflicts. Humanity stood united because they understood the alternative. She activated the communication system connecting her to every military installation. "To all personnel, this is President Carter. The enemy has returned. They bring greater numbers. They believe they will succeed where they failed before, but they do not understand what we have become. We are no longer the species they first encountered. We have learned. We have grown. We have prepared. Today we show them that Earth will never surrender, that humanity will never kneel, that we will defend our freedom against any threat no matter the cost. Good luck, good hunting. Give them hell." The collective fleet entered weapons range. Their formation was perfect. Their shields were already active. Their weapons were charged. They had studied the first battle, had analyzed every human tactic, had developed countermeasures for every weapon humanity had used. They were prepared. They were confident. They were about to learn another lesson about humanity. Humans were innovators. Humans adapted. What worked once would not work again. Humanity had known that, had planned for it. The weapon systems aboard the Commonwealth and its sister ships were not the same ones used 10 years ago. They were better, smarter, more devastating. Sullivan watched the range counter tick down. "Weapons free," he ordered. "Execute Battle Plan Omega." Space lit up with coordinated fire. But this time it was different. Human ships moved with precision. They did not rush forward. Did not expose themselves unnecessarily. They used the debris fields from old battles as cover. They coordinated fire to overwhelm individual targets rather than spreading damage across the entire fleet. They used tactics developed from 10 years of studying collective combat doctrine. The first alien ship took concentrated fire from 6 human vessels. Its shields collapsed. Its hull breached. It began venting atmosphere. The second ship tried to maneuver but ran into a minefield that had not existed 10 years ago. Explosions rippled along its length. The third ship returned fire but found its targets had already moved. Human ships were faster, more maneuverable, better trained, but the collective had numbers. For every ship that fell, 2 more pressed forward. Their weapons carved through human defenses. Defense platforms died. Warships exploded. The casualties mounted. This was not the quick victory of the first battle. This was grinding warfare. 2 forces relatively matched in technology, Two sides absolutely committed to winning. The difference was what they fought for. The collective fought for control, for empire, for the expansion of their territory. Humanity fought for survival, for freedom, for their very existence. That made all the difference. Cole coordinated defensive fire as another wave of alien missiles approached. Point defense systems engaged. Lasers picked off incoming warheads. Shields absorbed what got through, but the strain was showing. "We have lost 8 ships," Cole reported. 15 more damaged, but the enemy has lost 11 and they are pulling back their damaged vessels. Sullivan studied the tactical display. The battle had been raging for 4 hours. Both sides were exhausted, but humanity had one more card to play. "Activate the surprise," he ordered. "Let them see what we built on Mars." The Mars Defense Network had been constructed in secret, massive railguns built into the planet's surface itself, powered by reactors that drew energy from Mars' core, capable of accelerating projectiles to speeds that made orbital weapons look slow. They fired in sequence. Tungsten rods 3 meters long and half a meter wide screamed across space. They had been fired minutes ago, calculating where the collective ships would be. Now they arrived, moving too fast to dodge, too massive to stop. They punched through shields like they were not there, tore through hulls like tissue paper, emerged from the other side trailing debris. 3 collective ships simply broke apart. 4 more took critical damage. The alien fleet scattered trying to avoid the fire lanes, but that broke their formation, isolated their ships, made them vulnerable. Human vessels pressed the attack, concentrated fire on isolated targets. The battle turned. The collective had brought overwhelming force, but humanity had spent 10 years preparing, had used every lesson learned, had turned their entire solar system into a fortress. And now that preparation paid off. The collective commander realized the situation had become untenable. They had expected to overwhelm the humans through numbers, had expected primitives who got lucky once. Instead, they found a prepared defender, a species that learned from mistakes, an enemy that refused to fight the same battle twice. The remaining 15 collective ships began to retreat, moving back toward the edge of the system. Human ships pursued but carefully, not willing to expose themselves to a trap. Sullivan watched them go. "Let them run," he said. "We have made our point." Cole looked at him. "They will come back." "Eventually, yes," Sullivan agreed, "but not soon." They came with 27 ships. They are leaving with 15. They lost 12 capital vessels, thousands of crew, and they failed again. The collective will have to reevaluate everything they thought they knew about humanity. That will take time, and we will use that time to prepare even more. Cole nodded. "How long do you think we have?" Sullivan considered the question. "Years, maybe decades, long enough to spread beyond this solar system, long enough to find allies, long enough to become strong enough that they think twice before attacking us ever again." The battle was over. Humanity had won again, but everyone knew this was just another chapter. 20 years after first contact, the solar system was unrecognizable. Human civilization had spread beyond Earth like never before. Colonies on Mars housed 5 million people. Stations orbited every major planet conducting research and resource extraction. The asteroid belt buzzed with mining operations. Europa and Titan supported scientific outposts studying alien life. The shipyards had expanded beyond imagination. Dozens of warships patrolled human space. Hundreds of civilian vessels traveled between worlds. Humanity had become a true spacefaring civilization, not because they wanted to conquer, but because they needed to survive. The threat of the collective hung over everything. 2 battles won, but everyone knew there would be more. The question was when. Admiral Jake Sullivan was now in his 60s. Gray hair, weathered face, body marked by decades of service. But his mind was still sharp, his determination still absolute. He stood on the bridge of Commonwealth looking at reports from deep space probes. Humanity had sent sensors far beyond the solar system, watching for any sign of collective activity. So far nothing, but that would change. It always did. Captain Jennifer Cole had been promoted to Commodore. She commanded a battle group of 5 ships. Together they represented the most advanced military force humanity had ever fielded. She studied the same reports Sullivan was reading. "It has been quiet for 10 years, she observed. "Too quiet." Sullivan nodded. "The collective is patient. They operate on timescales we barely understand. They have other campaigns, other conquests, but they will not forget Earth. We embarrassed them, defeated them twice. That is unacceptable to them. They will return. Cole moved to the tactical display. When they do, we will be ready. We have 40 ships now, defense networks on 3 planets, weapons that match their technology, training that exceeds theirs. We are not the same species they first attacked. Sullivan smiled slightly. No, we are not, but they are not the same enemy either. They have learned from us, adapted to us. When they come back, it will be with a force we cannot match. The question is whether we can survive it. The answer came sooner than anyone expected. Long-range sensors detected the dimensional distortions first, massive objects dropping out of faster-than-light transit. Not at the edge of the system this time, closer, much closer. The collective had learned that giving humanity warning was a mistake. This time they wanted surprise. Admiral Cole's voice came through on priority channel. Sullivan, we have multiple contacts. Counting now. She paused. Sullivan felt his stomach drop even before she continued. 83 capital ships, multiple smaller craft. This is not a subjugation force anymore. This is an invasion fleet. Sullivan activated the fleet-wide emergency channel. All ships battle stations. All personnel to combat positions. This is not a drill. Execute defense protocol final stand. Across human space alarms sounded. Ships powered weapons. Defense platforms activated. Ground installations prepared. Every man, woman, and child knew what was coming. This was the moment they had prepared for. The moment they had feared. The collective had come in force. This time they meant to finish what they started. President Carter was 80 years old now. She had led Earth through 2 collective attacks, had overseen the transformation of humanity into a space power, had dedicated her life to preparing for this moment. She addressed the world one final time. Citizens of Earth, citizens of Mars, citizens of all human worlds. The enemy has returned. They bring numbers we cannot match, technology we cannot counter, force we cannot overcome through conventional means. She paused, letting the gravity of the situation sink in. But we are human. We do not surrender. We do not give up. We fight, even when the odds are impossible, even when victory seems beyond reach, because freedom is worth fighting for, because our children deserve a future, because we are human and humans do not kneel. Today we make our stand. Whatever happens, we show the galaxy what humanity truly is. We show them that some species will never be conquered, never be broken, never be defeated, not while a single human draws breath. The collective fleet advanced in perfect formation. 83 capital ships, each one capable of destroying a planet. Together they represented unstoppable force. They had come to end the human problem once and for all, to make an example, to show the galaxy what happened to species that defied the collective. Their weapons charged, their shields activated, their targeting systems locked onto human positions. They expected resistance. They expected humanity to fight. They expected casualties. What they did not expect was what humanity had prepared as a final contingency. The thing humans called the Omega Protocol. Sullivan stood on the bridge of Commonwealth surrounded by his crew. People he had served with for decades. People who had become family. He activated the protocol with his personal authorization code. All ships, this is Sullivan. Execute Omega Protocol. We have nothing left to lose. Make every shot count. Make them remember us. Make them regret they ever found Earth. The Omega Protocol was simple. Every ship, every platform, every weapon, everything humanity had built over 20 years, used simultaneously in one massive coordinated strike. It would leave Earth defenseless afterward, would expend every resource, would sacrifice the fleet to inflict maximum damage, but if they were going to lose, they would make it cost the collective dearly. The human fleet charged forward. Not defensively, not cautiously. They attacked with absolute commitment. 40 ships against 83. Impossible odds. Certain death. But they attacked anyway. Because that is what humans did. Railguns fired until their barrels glowed. Missiles launched until the magazines were empty. Energy weapons discharged until their capacitors melted. Nuclear warheads detonated in calculated patterns. The Mars Defense Network fired every round it had. Earth's planetary defense grid unleashed everything. Every weapon. Every defense, every last desperate measure. The collective fleet reeled from the onslaught. They had expected resistance, but not this absolute refusal to accept defeat, not this willingness to sacrifice everything. Human ships died, exploded, broke apart, but they took collective vessels with them. 1 for 1, then 2 for 1. The human crews knew they were dead, knew there was no survival, so they made their deaths count. Sullivan watched his fleet die on the tactical display, watched ships explode one by one, watched brave people give everything for a species that might not survive the day. Commonwealth shuddered as another hit struck home. Systems failed. Fires broke out. The bridge filled with smoke. Cole stumbled to his side, bleeding from a head wound. "We got 15 of them, Admiral," she said. 15 capital ships destroyed. Twice that damaged. We made them pay. Sullivan nodded. It was something. Not enough, but something. The collective would win. Would take Earth. But they would remember the price. Would think twice before attacking another species. Would understand that some civilizations would rather die free than live as slaves. That was worth something. That was worth everything. But something unexpected happened. The collective fleet stopped advancing. Sullivan stared at the display in confusion. Why had they stopped? They had won. The human fleet was destroyed. Earth was defenseless. Cole checked her sensors. "Admiral, I am reading new contacts. Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light transit." She paused. "They are not collective design. Not human either. Something else." The tactical display updated, showing 30 ships of unknown origin. They positioned themselves between the collective fleet and Earth. Then they broadcast a message on all frequencies. "Collective forces, this is the Federation of Free Worlds. We have observed your attempts to subjugate the human species. We have observed their resistance. We have observed their courage. Under Federation law, species that resist collective aggression are entitled to protection. You will withdraw immediately or face Federation intervention." Sullivan could not believe what he was hearing. Other species, other civilizations, coming to help, coming to defend Earth. The collective fleet held position for a long moment. Then slowly they began to withdraw, pulling back, leaving the system. The Federation ships held position until the last collective vessel disappeared. Then their leader contacted Sullivan directly. "Admiral Sullivan, I am Commander Kelran of the Federation First Fleet. Your species has earned our respect. You have fought the collective 3 times. You have refused subjugation. You have proven yourselves worthy of freedom. The Federation wishes to extend an offer of alliance, of friendship, of mutual defense. We know you have paid a terrible price today. We wish to help you rebuild, and to stand with you against future threats. Because the galaxy needs more species like humanity, species that refuse to surrender, species that value freedom above survival, species that inspire others to resist oppression." Sullivan looked around the damaged bridge, at his crew, at Cole, at the displays showing the remnants of his fleet. They had lost so much, but they had won something greater. They had earned their place among the stars, had proven humanity deserved to exist as a free species, had inspired others with their resistance. "We accept your offer," Sullivan said. "Humanity stands ready to join the Federation, to defend freedom alongside species that share our values, to make sure no civilization ever has to stand alone against the collective." Commander Kelran's response was warm. "Welcome to the Federation, Admiral.